On December 8th, the Ernakulam District and Sessions Court acquitted actor Dileep from charges that he had masterminded the kidnap and sexual assault of his colleague in the Malayalam film industry. Judge Honey Varghese, acquitting Dileep, said that the prosecution could not prove the conspiracy. She went ahead and convicted 6 men, including prime accused Pulsar Suni, who had done the actual kidnapping and sexual assault. Now, Dileep is a center of attention today. He came out of court and made a celebratory speech in which he said that there was an entire fake narrative which was woven around him. But we at the News Minute think that it is not just about Dileep. There are 3 more very important people who have contributed to what has happened over the last 6 or 7 years to what happened in court today. The first, of course, is Judge Honey Varghese herself, a controversial judge because the survivor herself has gone to court multiple times saying this judge is biased. I do not expect justice from her, so please change her. The second person is a chief of the Special Investigation Team, Baiju Poulose, the DYSP who was in charge of the investigation, someone who was cross-questioned in court more than the survivor and the prime accused himself. And finally, we have a profile on the News Minute on the third character, which is senior advocate Raman Pillai, the man who's perhaps responsible for getting Dileep acquitted. In fact, in his thank you speech outside court, it was Raman Pillai's name that Dileep took, saying that I have lifelong gratitude to him. So sitting across me is Maria Teresa Raju, Harita John, who's the Kerala Bureau Chief of TNM, and Azifa Fatima. I'll come to you first, Maria. You have written the profile on Raman Pillai, a senior advocate who also represented Bishop Franco, got him acquitted. There's a second high-profile case in which he's getting an acquittal. Yeah. So he has this aura of invincibility around him. Is that really true that he is invincible?
As you said, the Dileep case is not the first high-profile crime that Raman Pillai has appeared for. He has appeared for the Bishop Franco case. He has appeared for the accused in the Sister Abhaya murder case, the Nisham Hammer Chandrabose murder case, T.P. Chandrasekharan murder case. There's a whole list of high-profile crimes in which Raman Pillai has appeared for the accused. So yeah, his is a name that pops up when somebody speaks about high-profile crime in Kerala, and of course that contributes to the aura. But when we actually look at the cases that he has won or lost or got his clients acquitted or convicted, the statistics is not all that glittery. Yes, he got Dileep and Franco acquitted, but Nisham was convicted for the murder of Chandra Bose. Father Thomas Kotur was convicted for the murder of Sister Abhaya. The CPIM workers accused in the T.P. Chandrasekharan murder.
Some were convicted,
yeah,
some were acquitted.
Not all were convicted, but yeah, what he got was at best called a partial victory. So yeah, the list of Raman Pillai's successes and losses, you can't really say that he has won more cases than he's lost. That's not really true. In fact, one senior lawyer I spoke to for the profile told me that of some 20 narcotics NDPS cases that he appeared as a prosecutor and Raman Pillai appeared on the defense side, he won 19 of them. And the prosecutor won 19 of them. Raman Pillai won just one. So yeah.
The aura of invincibility is not clearly true, but at least for Dileep, it has worked.
Yeah.
So you must read the profile in which Maria really traces how Raman Pillai started off as an advocate. He started off as a prosecutor in just one case. So Maria does talk about all that. Do read the profile. Maria, one thing that we have noticed, whether it's the Bishop Franco case or the Dileep case, is a long-drawn cross-questioning which Raman Pillai does, right? It sort of tires the other person. Is that the real idea? Did you ask him about that?
I asked him, I had the opportunity to talk to him for like almost an hour after months of pursuing him, during which he told me that the favorite part of a case for him is cross-examination. He said he likes the fight. He said he likes it when the opposite side also puts up a fight. That is what he likes about cross-examinations, he said. But his cross-examinations are notorious for being very long and tedious and almost directed at psychologically breaking the witnesses who he's questioning, which we saw the survivor nun in the Franco case speak about how she was shamed in the court, how she was close to tears or crying in the court many times. Even the survivor in the actor assault case, she petitioned she petitioned the High Court asking for a change in judge, saying she had to undergo a second-hand trauma because of the trial. Then there was also the cross-examination of Baiju Poulose, which I believe Aziz will speak about in detail, which went on for over 100 days. So what Raman Pillai told me is that witnesses are coached by the prosecution. They know what to say. So only if I ask 100 questions will they give the answer that I want. But it's that is that really the case? We will have to actually examine if that's the case.
So just to make things clear here, I'm not at all a fan of Raman Pillai's career. Not that, okay, maybe his skills in the court are really something to be envious of, but the cases that he chooses, I'm not talking about the Dileep case at all, but he has represented Bishop Franco, questionable. Second is that he has represented Father Vadakanjeri.
Robin Vadakan.
Robin Vadakanjeri, who was accused of raping a minor, impregnating her, and then trying to marry her. Also, the kind of things that they spread. I remember covering that case very closely, where this Robin Vadakanjeri actually made the child's own biological father take responsibility for her pregnancy. That is how vile that father was and his church system. And it was Raman Pillai who represented him in the High Court appeal, but he did not get in relief. Since you mentioned Baiju Poulose is the DYSP. I mean, we have not been hearing too much about him after the verdict, but he's been a central character in all this. In fact, someone Dileep really hated. Dileep has petitioned the DGP of Kerala multiple times saying that Baiju Poulose has personal vendetta against him. Dileep has always made it a fight between him and Baiju Poulose. No idea why, but it's always been like that for Dileep. Even today, he said that it's the police which made it the fake story. So tell us, Azifa, about your profile. I wouldn't call it profile of Baiju Poulose, but you looked at how there was an attempt to break him in court, right?
Yes. So my story primarily looks at who Baiju Poulose is and how, he landed up in the case and how his questioning proceeded in the court. So from what we have the court documents, Raman Pillai's examination of Baiju Poulose was close to 2,000 pages. And Baiju Poulose is probably one of the longest, examinations that happened of an investigator in perhaps India itself, right? So in this...
We did hear in between that it's in the CBI case, in the Rajiv Gandhi assassination,
yes.
there was a long...
Yes, but when we spoke to the officer, senior
Karthikeyan.
officer, ex-officer Karthikeyan, he said that was not the case. And even he was surprised that, a police officer is questioned for 100 days. So a total of 100 days and Raman Pillai alone questioned him for 78 days, right? And what we see through the whole questioning process is that it was an attempt, rightfully by a defense lawyer to push him, provoke him, and at one point it also looked like he was trying to break the officer down. And we also heard from sources that he managed to do that at some point. And I would suggest you to read the story to, know more. And all this attempt was at one point, it looked like he was not trying to defend his party, but on the other hand, it was to take it into a direction to show that this whole thing was concocted by the police.
Especially Balachandra Kumar part.
Yes.
In fact, even today, Raman Pillai says in the interview post-verdict that Balachandra Kumar was brought by the police officer because the case was just falling apart and he made up. So at many points, this case has become Baiju Poulose versus Dileep, right?
Yes, at many points, like repeatedly from the beginning, we can see that Raman Pillai asking, why were you brought into the case? And then how did you bring in Dileep into the case? Why did you bring him in for questioning suddenly? Because that was based on the letter, as we know, a letter that the prime accused wrote allegedly from the jail to Dileep. And throughout the process, the attempt from the defense side was to show that the whole case was apparently concocted by the police and Dileep had no role in it. And the whole process, right? Even the memory card issue, which was one of the prime concerns in the case, in which we saw that memory card was tampered with, was accessed illegally 3 times when it was in the court custody. Even in that, we can see the advocates questioning in a direction that attempts to insinuate in some way that the police team is responsible for that.
Yeah. So yes, now talking about this long-drawn questioning of Baiju Poulose, which forms a part of that story. Do read Azifa's story. That connects to your story, Harita, which is a profile on Judge Honey Varghese. Because one of the criticism that she got from the Supreme Court itself is that why did you allow this kind of cross examination to go on? How can the investigator be cross examined for 100 days, right? Judge Honey Varghese is someone who got allotted to the case because a survivor asked for a woman judge. I don't think there's anything that she has regretted more than asking for the woman judge, because almost a few months from when the trial began, she has petitioned multiple times saying the judge should be changed. But much before the survivor petitioned, we had a special public prosecutor first resigning. Just take us through Judge Honey Varghese and the controversies in court.
In our profile of Judge Honey Varghese, there are multiple incidents which we have mentioned about there were heated arguments between the prosecution and the judge. And there was one instance where a particular witness, which was a major prime witness, which we have mentioned it in the story. So she has given a statement, a very, very relevant statement to the court case, but and she changed it. The witness became hostile, and the judge and the prosecution wanted to confront the witness, but judge did not allow it. So there was this kind of incidents, a lot of incident. And finally, what happened is that one day, judge made an inappropriate statement saying it's not the prosecution, it's the prostitution is happening in the court, not the prosecution. So that
I just want to interrupt here and say that these are things that we are talking from public records. Suresh, who was a special public prosecutor, when he resigned, he had given this as part of his affidavit, saying that he was insulted in court, where the judge said that it is not prosecution but prostitution. And that is when he resigned in a huff. So that was the first public prosecutor to resign the case. Then second one resigned.
So immediately after this statement was made by the court, by the judge inside the court, so immediately after that, Sureshan resigned. And even after that,
the next people.
Anil has also resigned. So there was this hostile court environment was the reason for even for the victim as well as for the public prosecutors, was the reason for the victim to approach the court, the higher court, multiple times asking to change the case to a different judge or to transfer the case to a different court.
But the profile that Harita and Chris have done is not merely about what happened in the courtroom, because most of this is known, that there was a lot of animosity between the prosecution and the judge, that the prosecution felt the judge was not fair. All this has been reported multiple times. So when you log on to that story, when you read it, you are not going to be reading the same thing. We'll tell you about why it has been even more controversial, considering the judge's political background. Her father is a CPIM leader. She herself was supposed to be active in the party circles in her college. So there have been 2 complaints at least against her. One by the one by the father of a man who died of political violence, and another by the enforcement directorate without naming her. So this is not the first time that she has been accused of bias. So Harita and Chris's story looks into all those allegations. But we also found that some of the allegations against her were very exaggerated, right? Like, for example, the fact that perhaps her husband, there was a case against her husband, which could have been used by Dileep, was one of the arguments which the prosecution made.
Her husband, Jijojos, was a circle inspector with excise department. So there was this whole narrative of a case he was initially accused of, a custodial murder case. So there was this allegations against him that Dileep used this particular case to influence Judge Honey Varghese. So when we went to the ground and investigated this particular case, and it was revealed that there was no connection between this case and Judge Honey Varghese, because her husband was already been acquitted by CBI, and her husband Jijojos was not directly involved in the custodial murder case.
So basically, CBI did not add him in the case. They merely said be fined because he was the person who had asked for the arrest. So all that comes into your story, right?
Yes, it all comes into my story, that how this whole case and how this narrative has been and how it was even exaggerated. And we also got multiple other opinions from other junior lawyers and other lawyers who are around her, that which
they say that Honey Varghese is a very empathetic judge, a very passionate judge. And even some of the cases which we attended to, we felt that she has been empathetic with many other
But
survivors.
nobody is just one shade, right? People can have multiple shades. Azifa, why would you say we chose these three people to do stories about?
So, in this case, like as we spoke about the high profile nature of it and everything, the whole focus was on Dileep primarily, right? And even the survivor was, pushed back at some point, like because it all became like Dileep cast himself as a victim. We've done a story on that, and but we chose these three people because these three people in some way shaped how the case went and how the narrative was formed. Like right from Baiju Poulose and Judge Honey Varghese and the advocate, like they were the three crucial elements in the case which actually influenced it in some way. For instance, Baiju Poulose, he was made the investigation officer like soon after the affair was filed, and the case was going in a particular direction, and they were trying to figure out what is the reason that this happened and everything. And after a point, Balachandra Kumar enters the picture, and suddenly we get a conspiracy angle into the story. And then Baiju, again, the investigation officer has to take a step back, go into the whole case again right from the scratch, and we saw them multiple times going to the court asking for an extension. On the other hand, Judge Honey Varghese was the one who actually, as a judge, supposedly to guide the whole proceedings and everything. And we saw her making multiple statements that we haven't seen other judges make in a open courtroom, right? And we haven't seen people quit because of a judge also. And then we have Raman Pillai, whose incessant questioning and provocation and his tirelessness, right? Like you ask the same question 100 times and the person gets tired.
But I was reading this post by a Supreme Court lawyer, Bala Gopal. He works for the Mathrubhumi now, I think. So he wrote about how when there is a case and Raman Pillai is your defense lawyer, you have to have more foolproof evidence, whether it's Bishop Franco or it's the Dileep case. And basically, the prosecution should have been smarter. Did you think that a Raman Pillai against does make it very difficult?
I do not really know what to comment on that, but I think we should look at how the prosecution's case was toppled at multiple stages with hostile witnesses, a lot of their evidence is being allegedly tampered with. So what is this proof, or what are these statements that the foolproof proof of the statements that the prosecution provided, it was toppled by other factors. So
isn't hostile witness a characteristic of some of these Raman Pillai cases?
Very much so. Even in the Nisham case, like you mentioned earlier, a witness turned hostile, and he came back to court the next day to say that he was offered money to turn hostile, that he was forced into turning hostile. That is a pattern that is seen across cases. So to say that the prosecution should have had a foolproof case, even if, let's say, they did, wouldn't other factors have
Influence.
witness manipulation?
I know. Also, like I have heard that Raman Pillai is that senior figure that most of the lawyers and even some of the district judges who have a huge respect on, and that they even have that fear kind of respect with Raman Pillai, that
Sort of
friend
influence the case.
Yeah, influence the cases, and they kind of not that confident to argue in front of him inside the court. Is there any such instances?
That is true. Like he might not have the aura of invincibility, but he definitely walks into the court with an aura where even he's 77 years old. All judges will be younger than him. Most people in court will be younger than him. So, of course, anybody who has interacted with the lawyer community will know the big-on hierarchy. They'll call everybody sir. So, a senior lawyer who has had 50 years of experience, who has worked on a variety of cases. Obviously, that experience counts for something, no? Even if it's not legal merit, if we might want to debate whether it's legal merit or influence or whatever that is, but that experience counts for something, and of course, that commands a certain respect. And yes, it is true that even judges or lawyers opposing him, all of them have a certain amount of respect towards him, and that could possibly sway or not sway.
And in this case, when we say talk about the foolproof evidence and everything, like primarily the question of the contention was about the conspiracy, right? The rest of the things they do have proof, and the first 6 accused were convicted right now. So the nature of conspiracy is that it is difficult to prove, and the second one, it is done in secrecy mostly, and you need to establish a chain of events to prove that. And at every step, when the prosecution was trying to prove the chain of events, it was toppled, as Maria was telling. The witnesses turned hostile, and then back to back, anybody who says a statement then went and revoked the statement, right? What we actually saw in this case is largely about power play, right? Like, who gets to talk and what do they talk, and can they stand by their statement? So these are the things that largely influence the case.
Because as you mentioned the power play aspect, I'd like to mention how we spoke about the memory card tampering in court, Dileep's phones being formatted, sent to a mobile lab, and all of that. So this is something that people I spoke to said, if it had been any other lawyer other than Raman Pillai, somebody not of his stature, would the court have been kind to him? That
Yeah, exactly. And the recordings where they're trying to tutor their witnesses, the whole fact that Sai, who's a hacker,
Yeah.
has gone to court and said that Dileep's devices were given to him to erase the memory.
And the fact that Sai came into the case because Raman Pillai was his lawyer for another case. He was directly brought to the case through Raman Pillai.
So many loops between loops, but the man laughing at the moment is Dileep, who has the last word as of now. But we know that the survivor will go to the High Court. The Kerala government has said they will also appeal. Though I'm not very optimistic thrilled about it, because even in the Bishop Franco's case, we have seen that appeal has not moved forward at all. So let's see what happens. So those are 3 very important stories that we have done. Do read. Maria, Harita, Azifa and Chris have put in a lot of energy and effort over many weeks, because writing these profiles are not easy. These are not characters about whom people are very forthcoming to talk, right? So it takes a lot of time and patience to put this together. Some of these stories are behind a paywall, but that's okay. Sometimes we have to pay for journalism. So please do read those stories and write to us. Thank you very much, and keep watching the News Minute.